Hello and welcome back to my channel, Complicated Relationships Reddit Stories. Hope you guys are safe and healthy. Now let's see what the story is about today. What would you do if your girlfriend meets a guy on a night out, gets pregnant by him, and then blames you for working too much when you asked her why she did it? Now let's find out all about his situation in today's story. Also, if you like what I do, please give this video a thumbs up and do subscribe to the channel.
Let me give you a bit of a background. We're both in our 30s and have quite recently moved to a totally different city across the country over a couple of months prior, as I had been extended to a vastly improved paying employment opportunity and much lower living expenses, just as it being a pleasant area to bring up a kid. I was initially shocked since we always used protection, but after having some time to think about it, I was ecstatic. It was the perfect time in our lives for kids. I just finished the last payments on my flat, low-interest mortgages, and first-time buyer benefits, as well as being a strong contender for the job I currently have. Anyway, recently she has been very distant and reserved. I just chalked that up to pregnancy hormones, but during breakfast she seemed even more distant and quiet than usual. So I asked her what was up a few times until she yelled that she doesn't always have to answer me and walked away. Right, whatever. I was late for work, so I went on my way. I got a message around lunchtime asking me if I could leave the lab early because there was something very important she wanted to talk about and didn't want to do it after I got home after a long day.
So, OP finished up his work, okayed it with his boss, and went home picking up some food for them on the way.
To cut a long story short, and beating around the bush, she told me that while I was working all week at the lab, she met a guy during a night out with some work friend, and one thing led to another, and they ended up sleeping together. This carried on for a week or two supposedly, because I was always working and not spending enough time with her. I worked 14-hour days during that time, and just wanted to come home and sit. She mentioned how he lied about using a condom by saying he was using ultra-thin ones, and didn't realize what he did until she felt it. The time of this fits in with when she was up the duff. I can't describe how angry I felt after she told me. I got up and threw her food into the bin and left the house to go for a drive to a friend's so I could calm down. I returned home the next morning and demanded we book an appointment for a prenatal paternity test, which she was initially very much against, but eventually gave in and agreed. I booked an appointment that morning for the following week, and I stayed with my mate until the day. I took the afternoon off work and drove us there in silence, aside from her crying and apologizing, got the procedure over with, and dropped her back and went back to my mate's until results day.
Well, they got the results back today, and guess what? It turns out OP is not the father.
I drove us home and demanded she get out and start packing because I wanted her out before I got back from work and picking my stuff up from my friends. She was hysterical and saying how I couldn't just leave her alone and homeless while she was so close to the due date and so far away from home, and that she really loved me and wanted me to raise this child with her because it's the only way the baby will have a decent life. She's an arts graduate and was working a minimum wage job before the move and pregnancy. I never made it into work. I drove into a field, rang my boss to tell him what happened, and he told me to take as much time as I needed, and he'd have a PhD student cover my work.
OP stayed there for hours, just lying in his seat and crying how everything has fallen apart.
I had just gotten my life in order. Everything was stable and ready to go for the baby. We even finished designing the baby's room. I switched my phone back on and saw I had several missed calls and voicemails, a few from her, some from her family, and a couple from my friend, telling me to come to his place as soon as I could. I rung my mate up, filled him in, and went over to his. And that's what happened so far. I haven't gone back to the house yet. I just can't bring myself to go back there, knowing that all the plans I had for it are dead. I have no idea what to do anymore. What should I do? I apologize in advance if my rambling wall of text is difficult to read. I just wanted to get it all out and have been typing on my tablet.
Well, OP has an update for us. Now let's see what happened after.
I'm so sorry for the late reply, but I've been sorting things out with a solicitor and her family. I took the advice and after calming down, bought her a one-way coach ticket back home. Trains don't go to Horseville. The morning after this went down, I went to the house with my friend with me and she was still there, which I expected. She immediately waddled over and started hugging me and crying, and begging not to end our relationship. I stayed with my initial feelings of wanting her to get out of the house. I gave her the piece of paper with the coach ticket, and then told her to gather her stuff so I can drop her off at the coach station.
After much more crying, she packed her suitcase and OP loaded it into his car and drove them to the coach station.
My friend was with us all throughout as a witness because you can never be too careful. After getting her out of the car with even more crying and sitting her down in the waiting room, she calmed down a bit because there were people around. She asked me what she's meant to do now as a jobless, homeless single mother. My response was, F you, Jenny, go to Zach, it's his problem now. Just kidding. I told her that she should try to find the father, wished her the best, and left. I had a few calls from her family asking me if I was out of my mind. I've had my phone off since then, and I'm just trying to move forward. I might make a proper update on the weekend, if there's going to be one, and turn my phone back on. But for the time being, I'm trying to focus and work to catch up on everything. Thank you all so much for your support. This truly is an amazing community, and I didn't expect this to blow up like it has.
Well, OP, I say good on you. Don't have any regrets. She did what she did and dug her own grave. I honestly believe that she deserves what she's getting. There are few things worse than cheaters and liars. She's clearly both. Furthermore, she obviously had no plans of telling you at any point. The only reason she had to was that baby bump. Also, don't blame yourself for what she did. She can blame it all on you for not being home as much as she wants, but it's not true. If she truly cared, she wouldn't have gone out of the way to disrespect you and betray you. It's all on her, not you. If you ever think about getting back together with her, realize that once a cheater, always a cheater. If you do it once, it is definitely easy to do it again. Best of luck to you, and I hope everything works out for you. Well guys, before we go, let's listen to a few responses by our community. The top advice is by Aqua Zesty Man.
All I can really say to you is this. I met, dated, fell in love with, and married a woman with 3 children who are not mine. An older child just ahead of his 13th birthday, and 7-year-old fraternal twins. They are 17 and 12 now. Who were the children when we first met? Well, strangers to me, they were nothing to me. But as time went on, I loved them as a friend and male role model, and then as a father. Today, I can't imagine my life without them. Who are they to me genetically? Nothing. But who are they emotionally and spiritually? They are as much my children as my sister and her children whom I am all related to by blood. Whatever you choose to do with your life from here on in, that child, or twins, or whatever, will belong to your girlfriend forever. If you stay with her and marry her, they will belong to you forever. Blood is nothing. Genetics are nothing. Health reasons excluded. Emotional bonds and spiritual bonds are everything. No matter what has happened so far, you have already bonded with that child to some extent. It does hurt because you want to walk away, but there is a part of you that doesn't want to. Part of you still loves that child, no matter where the sperm came from that fertilized the egg. You can still have the family you want.
This one is by Blued Up.
I'm going to post a countervailing opinion here. Do you still love her? If so, work it out. Who cares if that kid has your genes or not? Raise the kid. That kid might be the love of your life, and you'll never know if you quit now. Only do this if you can truly forgive her, though, but don't write it off as a possibility. That being said, you are well within your rights to leave her. Just be careful that your conscience and your soul can withstand that decision. Reply by Dad7025. I think that would be the triumph of hope over experience. Emotionally, it seems impossible to get over that kind of betrayal. It will always be there. And to form an emotional bond with a child that is the product of infidelity? That's tough. Perhaps a saint could do that, but for most of us, that would be unfair to the child. Plus, it would probably be a matter of time before it would happen again. Reply by Blued Up. Well, that child's life just got a lot harder, and it wasn't its fault. Not saying that staying wouldn't require the attitude of a saint, but just make sure you won't feel equally awful knowing that kid might end up with a very tough life. Dad7025 reply. Agree, the child is the innocent victim, but the guy shouldn't feel guilty about a kid he's got nothing to do with. There are lots of kids in bad situations that we feel bad for, but we don't feel personally responsible for their plights. Likewise, this guy is not personally responsible for this kid's plight. Reply by Blued Up. True, good point. The real question is whether he still loves his SO. If not, then bolt.
The final advice is by Teruma.
What a waste of a sandwich. In all seriousness, though, it sounds like you've made up your mind about leaving her, so all you can do is move forward. The most targeted question you asked was about not fulfilling the plans for your home. I think the best thing to do is to make new plans. A lot of other infidelity victims recommend throwing yourself into a project. Donate all the child stuff, or let her have it, depending on if your country is dumb enough to classify such an act as an admittance of responsibility for the kid. Turn the room into something you would enjoy, like a theater or a hobby spot or a library. Even just painting the walls would make a big difference. Sounds like you have at least one good friend who'd be willing to help and or enjoy the space with you when it's done. I can't say I have much advice about the loneliness I'm sure you're feeling. Love, hate, and disappointment toward your now ex are all reasonable and valid, as well as some sense of loss over your child that was but is no more. The only certain thing is that nothing is going to change the events that caused you to feel this way. They are over-ish, and in the past. All you can really do is look forward for yourself and cope and move on eventually, though not necessarily right away. It's okay to feel, and it's okay to grieve, but look for ways not to lose yourself in it.
Thank you all for listening. Please like, comment and share the video if you enjoyed it. Also, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you will be notified when we upload the next video. Take care.